Yes. Double trouble in the clubhouse.
What's up, ZBrush friends?
What were you just drinking there? Was that coffee? Is that your
with my home state, the great state of Michigan, right there.
Great state. Wait, that doesn't really look much like a Michigan.
Mom sends me one of these.
Oh, there it is. Year. I see it now. I see it. Is that a changing mug where it changes as the coffee's hot?
No, I wish, because it's pink. It's the color of my soul.
Yeah, on this it looks like it's got a little border, so I thought.
Oh yeah, because you got like the little
Yeah. How many of those do you have a day, you think?
Actually, I've cut down my coffee significantly in the last couple of years. So this is the first cup I've had in maybe 2 weeks.
Oh wow!
It's Saturday, so I need a little booster.
A little pick me up.
I just rolled out of bed, and we're gonna stream some ZBrush today.
I love it. All right, so this is our first Clubhouse episode 1 mashups. In a minute here, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Solomon Blair, and he's going to explain to you guys kind of what him and I are doing today. So first, I just want to make sure everyone can hear us fine and obviously see our screen. I can see that you guys should be able to see our screen fine. But as far as audio goes, I want to make sure we're good. Saul, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, everybody just let us know if you have any issues or if it's too loud, too low, all that good stuff. I'll try and keep my mic close to my face. Digital Plankton said double vision.
Oh, good.
It was good.
Yeah. So this is fun, people. We're going to be trying this. This is always our first one as an experiment. We're going to call these streams when there's more than one of us streaming at a time. To actually have a clubhouse. So that's why we're calling these segments Clubhouse, because we're just hanging out. We're going to sculpt. We got a theme for you guys. I see there's already a question coming through from Walter. He's new and he wants to hollow out a sculpt for printing. Oh boy. Either one of us can take that, I guess.
Walter, I'm going to pass you a link in ZBrush Central. I did a stream on this not too long ago making a Mandalorian helmet, and I'll send this to you. This is the whole thread. I'll pull this thing up real fast so you can see on my screen. So I'm making a helmet.
Hold on, I got to switch to your screen.
I forgot that we have to do all these extra controls here.
Yeah, you're jumping. Hold on. Now we're going to show Solomon's screen. Okay,
let's just get going.
Let's just hop right into this. Okay, your screen's up.
Okay, so just real quick, I'll just show this to you briefly. It was creating the helmet, and I went through shelling process using Dynamesh to do it. And then setting up for 3D print keys. So this whole stream you'll see in the link that I just posted in the thread, that's all there if you want to check that out. And if you have any further questions, Paul and I stream regularly, so we can talk about that later for sure.
Digital Plankton, what time is it for you? You just woke up in time today? What time is it there? Where are you? Now I'm intrigued. All right, Saul, you go ahead now.
Well, then, so
go ahead.
Since Paul started streaming for us last week, we decided to try and enhance this idea further, jump in and collaborate together. And we were trying to figure out what to do. This is something that I do in my streams regularly called ZBrush Mashups, and we wanted to make this a team effort. So we both collectively work on something. So we pick 2 random topics and we make it. Now we're going to send you guys, you'll be getting in the chat a straw poll. And you can pick for the future streams, you can pick the topics that are going to be covered in the next streams. This one in particular, Paul and I had a whole list that if any of you guys watch my regular streams a while back, I was asking people to give me ideas on what to mash up. So I'll send you guys a quick, we'll just pull this one up. My current one that I'm doing in my stream is Super Mario World and Blade Runner. So that's like the one I've been working on for way too long, but I'm slowly making my way through all these assets. So taking this concept, I'll paste this here in the chat as well. We wanted to do something new, and Care Bears was in the list, and Paul was really excited about Care Bears.
Yes! Why would you not?
And I was excited too. I was like, okay, what do we do with Care Bears? And I think I was like, we'll figure it out. So I started making a Care Bear, and I was thinking we were going to do Care Bears and mech. That was going to be the thing. And I was thinking, okay, I'll make it like Men in Black, where his face opens up, and then inside I'm going to do Grumpy Bear, and inside is going to be somebody grumpy driving the Care Bear. So that was the idea. And then Paul goes, I think you said something along the lines of it could be like Blaster Master.
Yeah, Master Blaster.
Master Blaster from Mad Max. And I was like, oh, yeah. So we just decided Mad Max would be the theme. So today we're going to be doing a mashup between Care Bears and the Mad Max universe. So Paul and I both did our best to at least come prepared with some assets. I made just a quick Grumpy Bear as a starter, and Paul's got, which one are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing share bear. Wait, I always forget now. Hold on.
You are the master sharer.
Cheer bear,
so.
cheer bear, cheer bear,
cheer bear.
Cheer bear is what I'm doing.
Nice. So yeah, we're going to get started here in a minute. If you guys have any suggestions for ideas that we could mash up, feel free to throw that in the chat. We'll go through that afterwards. If you take a look at the list, I think the poll has the poll gone out? I don't see it in the chat.
Not yet, but I'm showing the poll now in the stream right now. So you guys can see the poll. So there'll be a link. It's coming every 10 minutes in this chat. So that will get you guys will go and vote. And then the top 2 will be the next mashup. So there you go. There's the straw poll that was put together. So you'll have a link coming through in the chat for this.
Yeah, so topics like that, feel free to suggest, and we will make this a voting thing for the next time. So you guys get to pick what we end up doing. And the next stream that we do, if you guys are enjoying this, we're going to bring in more Pixologic developers, Dice K, Joseph, and more, and try and make this as fun and creative as possible. And one quick thing I saw in the chat, some people were mentioning that the audio is a bit choppy. There's, as of right now, from our understanding, this is the actual service that we're using to do 2 streams at once. And I don't know if there's much that we can do about this. We're going to do our best to make this work as smoothly as possible, but we may not be able to control that. So we apologize for that if that's an issue. All right, man. Paul, you want to get started here?
Yeah. Well, somebody wants your glove too.
This. Oh, well, this guy you can go to. Where's the?
There you go.
It's actually on the glove. It's backwards though. Artistglove.com. So artistglove.com. I'll put that in there. We did a collaboration with them. They actually went and made some ZBrush ones. They have different designs as well that you can get your hands on. Which this thing, I never used to use these, and this is a total game changer.
Randy Dice, what's going on? See you there. So welcome everybody. So you can see we got our Care Bears up. Mine seems to be fat Care Bear compared to yours.
So can I show off my I did a quick design the other night of kind of what I wanted to do. So I started off, I was thinking, okay, I like the idea of making a grumpy bear. That seems fun. And I was thinking, okay, what character, when we decided on Mad Max, what character is the grumpiest in the Mad Max universe? And the one that I came up with was Immortan Joe, so I started going through and actually concepting out what would be a stylized version of Immortan Joe's little outfit, and then actually creating his custom little mask here. And so this is about, a few hours of just kind of going through and sculpting. I'm sure doing in one stream today, Paul and I won't be able to get through everything, but we're going to go through and do as much as we can. So if you guys have questions about any of these things, this is what we're here for. So feel free to stop us, ask us to show something off. Otherwise, if you don't care and you just want to see us work, then we can just do our thing and we'll just chat it up and start sculpting and modeling.
Yeah. And then as you guys can see, we're going to be sharing both screens at the same time. So you'll be able to watch both of us work at the same time. And then him and I will be talking to each other the entire time. Making fun of each other in the sense what I mean by that. So all making fun of me. Okay, so there you have it. I want to change mine up. I was going to do like the hand. Hi, look at me.
I love that.
Yeah, but I kind of want to chop the arms off. Mine needs some love, I think.
Well,
still.
In all fairness, you didn't have nearly as much time to go through and figure this stuff out as I did. So. Paul's got kids. I'm just a single guy. I got nothing but time.
Nothing but time.
All right.
You have kids. I'm a kid too. So I'm a big kid.
That's true.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, since you guys seen with Saul here, I'm going to add my Care Bear to this. So this is the one I'm doing. So let me add that. Yay! So that's kind of why I went with the hands, because it's like cheer bear, like hug me. And it's a girl as well, and there's a reason why I'm also picked a girl, and it is because I'm going to go with, for me, one of the big movies is Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Classic reference, though.
There you go. So I'm going to do myself a little kind of inspirational Tina Turner. Uh,
I love
so
it.
I'm going this route. So he's doing the newer Mad Max Fury Road, which I think it took him like 10 years to make that movie.
Really, 10 years?
Oh, I know that they were going to shoot it in Australia at a point, and then that Australia ran with and they had a ton of fires or something like that, so they couldn't do it. And that's why it got pushed somewhere else, right? They just weren't able to do it. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, yep. So all right, I'm gonna start throwing some color on it just to show that this is a female. And I went with pink too because darn it, my daughter likes pink. So. And of course, she came in. She's like, "Dad, can I have that printed?" I'm like, "I should have never printed anything for her."
You really opened up like a can of worms with that one, huh?
I opened up like a Grand Canyon of worms. Okay, because now every time she comes here and she goes, "All right, can you print that for me?" I'm gonna color it. I'm like, "Oh Lord, what have I done?"
She's gonna be printing so quickly. You're gonna be making all of her toys probably.
Yeah. Hey, I just saw a question too. Was someone asking about that I just bought ZBrush? Well, welcome to the family, number one. And they're trying to learn the basics. Solomon did a really good kind of walk you through making like a shark dude. I would recommend that to start from there for sure.
Here, I'll
get
find
that link?
Yep.
You get that link. I'm gonna start coloring up my bear. Oh yeah, get that pink. I might even do mine. Maybe, you know what? I might go the toon route since it's like Care Bears and Toony.
Yeah, totally.
I might, we'll change it up a little bit. I might do that. I think I'm gonna go that now that I've seen the image. That's how we roll, people. Right on the whim. Happy little mistakes. That's what we're doing here, people. So I'm going to select a different material here, and let's just go ahead and fill it with everything. Yeah. Because you got the link there.
Working on it. I am
working on it, people. Oh yeah.
Project.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh, this should be in digital sculpting, I guess.
It's in the getting started part. If that's what you're looking for, if I remember right.
I can't remember which section it was in. Here,
getting started.
Getting started. There we go.
Now you've got it.
Beginner series posted in the chat. Creating Shark Boy.
Just like that. Answered.
So I got to ask you, Paul, for me, like when I get started on something like this, I find myself fitting so much with like the clean base mesh for as long as I possibly can before I start doing accessories. So I can get a good what. What's like your biggest hurdle when you're getting started with design?
I that's a great question because I do kind of the same thing, right? But I have found that the fiddling around tends to get me trapped in a hole, or as I like to say, since we're doing Care Bears, no one puts me in the corner with baby. Okay, Patrick Swayze can't come and save me right now. He's not alive anymore.
Is that a Care Bear? No one puts.
No. It's because Dirty Dancing 80s. I'm staying in the 80s. You stay in your 90s. I'll stay in my 80s. Okay, or actually, you're in the 2000s. I'm in the 80s because I've got Thunderdome.
Yeah, well, you're permanently in the 80s, my friend.
I can't get enough. I know. I'm sure it's got to be annoying for you guys now that work at Pixologic because I don't know how my wife hasn't slapped me in the face and said, "Okay, all right, already." And I feel for my daughter because I think she's going to have a problem with her friends because she's going to want to listen to the 80s and her friends are going to be like, "What is this? What are we?"
So I just randomly have been watching all the Back to the Futures on Netflix. And I love how basically your household reminds me of Marty McFly's household in Back to the Future 2, where it's just like they idolize the 80s because it's like it's so far gone in the 2015s. Isn't that it? 2015 is the future in Back to the Future 2?
No. It just passed. It was Back to the Future 2 is what year? What? No, it was like 2019.
2019.
I think it's 2019 if I remember right.
Like, that's basically your household permanently.
Yeah, well, my wife has embraced it, which I appreciate. She will throw on the 80s, and a lot of times she's like, "You look a little down." She does the old throw on the 80s for him.
That's awesome. She knows you too well, man.
Station from iHeartRadio.
My Alexa playing these right now. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, play Back to the Future.
It was 2015. Are you sure, Yariv? I thought it was.
Couldn't find any enabled video skills.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, Yariv's backing me up on this one.
Alexa app to manage your video skills.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't remember, but whatever. Let's make this tongue a different color here.
It's good. I always
So
wonder.
to your question, this is a great question because what I found to your question, I have stopped as much as I can in the fiddling phase, just because I got in a hole. That's why I'm saying the stupid baby thing. I would get myself in a hole, and then I'm just sitting there fiddling, and nothing's changing, right? So it wasn't worth all that extra work. I was just creating more problems for myself, in essence.
Yeah.
So I've found now, for me, a good way of looking at, okay, I'm at a point where, like this Care Bear, it's not perfect right now, but I moved on. I got at least the whole Care Bear. And I think the most important thing sculpturally is you should be touching every part of your sculpt before you really even move on. So I found a rhythm for myself, which is hard, I think, for all of us, that, okay, it's at a point where it at least looks like the Care Bear and not just move on. Learn to just move on. And then it'll start coming through when you put more and more of it. Like in my stream yesterday, I went a lot through my process actually with my gremlin. And I'm just sculpting that entire gremlin inside my streams and literally going through, okay, here's my next step, here's my next process, so forth and so on, right?
Yeah.
So to your question, that's what I've started to do. I've gone, okay, I need to let this go. I need to move on.
Totally.
So I think that's crucial. And I think you got to stop messing. And I call that dirtying up the sculpt or mucking up the sculpt. And in most cases, for me too, when I got in a roadblock where like, I'm sure we've all been there, you're sculpting for like an hour or two and you're like, okay, it looks nothing's changed. I found for me, okay, just walk away then. Drop the pen, take a break, go watch a movie or go do or to look at it the next day and you'll have new fresh eyes. It's just like this guy, this one I'm looking at. And I still want to change so many things on this. And I don't know, maybe I will because my daughter will convince me to.
She's going to give some creative input.
Yeah, that and she'll want to. Yeah, she wanted to do something. She's like, "Oh, can I make that?" I'm like, "Well, I love you, baby, but I gotta get this done. At least have something that looks like I know what the heck I'm talking about."
She's going to be your creative director someday.
Oh boy, is she ever? She already is.
Daddy, I don't like that color scheme. You need to change it.
Let's be honest.
That's too great. No, but yeah, I think that's really good advice. I kind of have come to that same conclusion. Like, I'll spend a lot of time on the base forms and shapes. Like, even just trying to get to the base body of this character I have. I never stick in one area for too long, and I find that if I just keep working on other stuff, even if something else isn't perfect, you kind of fill in the gaps as you go. But if you get too stuck on one thing, like the goal is to not get burned out on the piece, right? And if I get burned out on the thing and I'm not having fun making it, then I have less creative ideas that come out in the process. So if I get stuck on one thing for too long, then I'm kind of just shooting myself in the foot,
Yeah, Randy, to your question, technically you can do what you're asking. You can actually use GoZ Photoshop. You could also use old school Projection Master actually will allow you to paint to a texture map. But technically I can do that. But as far as down the road, unfortunately, we can never really discuss development. Because while we're in development, there's a lot going on. And we sometimes go for a little fun ride with our development. So
it's true.
Things change. So I got a question for you. So let's say if someone came to you and said, "Okay, I'm learning ZBrush. What 5 features would you say are like, look, okay, you got to spend some time and just understand these 5 features." Obviously, everyone needs navigation. Here's 4 brushes, and you can sculpt anything organically. You're off and running.
Yeah.
But when you start, you as a person who knows ZBrush really well, what do you say then? Okay, these 5 though changed my life, and made things easier for me as an artist.
Man, that's a loaded question. Okay, like can a brush count?
Sure, absolutely. A brush can count 100%.
ZBrush, I would say, I'd say number one for me personally, it is, I think maybe because I'm a little bit more traditional in the lineage of topology and surfaces, but learning how to manipulate clean topology that is subdivided. So ZRemesher would be one. I think that boils down to just ZRemesher. Understanding why you ZRemesh, when to ZRemesh, I think is really important, because Dynamesh, I'd say number two. Those two are kind of like, if I'm teaching anything, I'm always starting teaching just using Dynamesh, and then I go into ZRemesher later. It's a strange thing because I remember the days when something like ZRemesher didn't exist, and you had to build all of your base meshes with clean topology, bring it into ZBrush and sculpt it, right? And you just subdivide it and sculpt it. And that process alone taught me how to understand just how to work the forms at the low levels and then do the details at the high, and not do too much detailing at the beginning, like the sort of general process. So like understanding Dynamesh and ZRemesher, I think, is for me the biggest one. But sculpturally speaking, I think the move brush honestly is, I know that it's very simple, but for me, like just doing like this dude, like just getting this guy, and I'm not even, you guys tell me if it's okay, but I mean, even like 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't be able to do this as quickly as I did, but just getting like nice, clean silhouette, like you would just throw an outline on there, getting nice, sort of curves happening. And they're not even quite there yet, but this for me was all just move brush and understanding just basic primitive shapes and just moving stuff around to get it in the right place before you start throwing stuff on top of it. For me, that would be the biggest one. Sculpting brushes, like everything else, I think move brushes is essential, and then everything else comes after that for me. But it always depends on what kind of stuff you do, because if you're the kind of person that, like, I don't know, say you're like a Joe Mena who makes coins, or you're somebody who like works on like engravings, like Thomas Whittlesbach who does jewelry, he's not doing necessarily as much moving around as he is like sculpting on a singular surface. So I say I take that take that with a grain of salt. But I think the majority of people are making characters and doing a lot of like large scale movements. So I think that's why that's important. And after that, ZModeler. I think ZModeler is huge. And if you watch my streams, I see Yuri Newman's in here, so he's probably got a lot to say about that. But I think it's essential, which is really just boils down to understanding polygon modeling. That's, to me, is like such a powerful tool that goes so far and works in pretty much every project in every situation. So that's 3.
Yeah, don't feel obligated to go to 5. If you don't feel it, right?
Oh no, I like it. I just I don't know. I've never like categorized. This is like, to me, this is like asking me the question, like, what's your top 5 favorite movies?
Well, that's ridiculous. No, now you're striking a nerve with me, okay? Because I could definitely do that, 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts. Chris, we'll come to your question about how to center something in the world. If you want, there's multiple ways to do it. However, there's also local symmetry has abilities to do things. So we can show you that, but in a second here, one of us can show you that for sure.
I'll come back to my last 2. I got to think about those.
Okay, go up. You're going to come back to your last 2? All right. Yep. I have to agree with pretty much a lot what you said. Like, Dynamesh for me, ZRemesher for me is a big one. Big change in workflow for me. ZModeler was a big one for me because I love doing hard surface stuff. So having that ability to do some quick box modeling stuff and things like that, really. And honestly, I always put in the top 5 polygroups.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I take polygroups.
Every single person should understand polygroups and how they work. Period.
That's a great one. And because you said polygroups, I figured out my 5th. My 5th is, if anybody watches my streams, I think I use it in every single project that I ever make or work with. Panel loops. I use panel loops with so much. In terms of ZBrush features, I think panel loops is one of the most powerful things in ZBrush.
There's so many things you can do with panel loops. It's crazy. Yeah. It's insane. Well, how many things that you can do in panel loops? Really?
I mean, we use it for all kinds of things. I mean, I'm using right now, I'm using extract to go through and make some of these parts because they're simple. But in terms of like getting like nice clean beveled edges and things like that, if you watch any of my other streams, that ZBrush Mashups link I posted earlier, I'm using it for making vehicles. I'm using it to make armor and plating and like hybrids between organic and hard surfaces. It's just it's I think it's the most it allows you to let go of the traditional modeling techniques of like edge looping and polygon modeling and actually make something organically like in the ZBrush way and then clean it up and give it extra little details on top of that.
ZBrush way.
The ZBrush way. I saw somebody mention about comments, or there somebody was asking about comments for the new Unreal stuff. I would just say we wouldn't be able to talk about anything development related, but in terms of what they just demoed a few days ago, it was extremely impressive. Would you say?
Yeah, I think it's going to be cool for a lot of ZBrush artists to mess with that, being that you know, you can just plop in your polygons, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, there's going to be a lot of experimenting with that, and there's a lot of other things you need to do in a game engine to do things like that.
Sure. Yes.
But it is what it is, right? So
I think the greatest thing that offers for us is basically what ZBrush has already been able to do for quite a long time is go into the, you know, tens of millions and hundreds of millions of polygons and achieve this high level of detail. Now we're getting to a place where all platforms are beginning to be able to hold those details in the surfaces, right? They're able to repurpose that stuff and actually, you know, hold, as I saw somebody posted in the, like a Twitter post, it's like billions and billions and billions and billions of polygons. Like it's really impressive what they're able to do with maintaining that geometry now.
Yeah. I'm gonna color these eyes real quick, and then I'm gonna show that person the question for the centering.
Do your thing.
I'm just living here. Ain't no sunshine when he... What? I don't know what I'm saying.
Super, you're asking about Top Gun 3. We wouldn't be able to say. I mean, I haven't used Top Gun 3, but I'm not necessarily doing topology in those ways these days. I'm using ZRemesher for just about everything. But I understand the need.
That's the beauty of doing 3D printing. You don't have to worry about topology. It's glorious. Glorious. I'm gonna give her some blue eyes, I think. Yeah, let's give her some blue eyes. There.
This guy has these tubes that shoot into his little mouthpiece that are just so wild.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go full screen for a moment here on me, just so you know, Saul, so that way they can see what I'm doing in here. Okay, so your question for things about in the center of the world, just so when you do have something actually off-centered, number one, so I'm just grabbing a simple shape just so you can see visually that this is sitting somewhere else in the world, right? And then you're working symmetrical like this. Obviously, you guys can see my little red dot is way over on the other side. So the first thing I just want to make sure you're aware of is local symmetry. So that's this button right here. So I'll throw on my magnifier. Bam! Right there. And then you can click that. And then now you'll see that I can sculpt even though it's somewhere else in the world. Okay? So this is a way that even if something's not at the center of the world, you can still work on this. And this will work with mirror and welding too. Mirror and weld will pay attention to local symmetry. So what I mean by that is when you normally do a mirror and weld, you're going to get the opposite. I'm going to get another object, right? If you have local symmetry on, and let's turn off symmetry and I do something like this, and I go to mirror and weld, right? I get that now. So you can actually use this local symmetry for sculpting ability and also for things like mirror and welding, of course. Now, I prefer, if I'm going to try and snap something to the center, I prefer using the old school way because obviously you want the object to go back where it was if this is what you're looking for. I own the transform. I do a set pivot point. So this is old school. Like, this is super old. And then you can see it move the object to the center temporarily. Okay, and then you can now work symmetrically, even if I turn off this, right? So I can work on this thing symmetrically. And then when I'm happy with what I got, which I'm never happy with what I got, but that's the world of an artist. right? Then you can go here to transform, and then there'll be a clear pivot point. And when you click that, see it pops back into its original place. So there's that way. We're opening up in what we call now my streams, Solomon. I have a tangent thing that I do, but someone that's been watching my streams, I forget who it is. We've now phrased a new one called the tangent inception, because I just keep going down to another level and another level.
I think I actually was tuning into your stream and I saw somebody drop that in the chat.
I got to make a graphic for that. That's a must-make graphic now.
Definitely.
So here's your position. So this is where it is in space. So you could also just write those values down and then zero it out. And then when you're done moving, you can go put your values back in and it'll plop back into place. So you could do that as well. I saw someone mention the gizmo. You could do that. And then you can center this. And this little home button will recenter the gizmo to the center of the world, which is going to bring the mesh as well. But you got to understand that's actually a physical movement in space. Right, so that's why for me, I prefer using the step pivot and clear pivot. And yesterday, I actually also went through posable symmetry at the very end of my stream. So that'd be another one. Cool. All right. So back to my Care Bear.
I just I'll field another question. I saw somebody was asking about a belt. See if I can find that question. Gecko was asking, "Hi, dudes. So with creating, say, a belt using extract, would there be another way outside of extract?" That's a good question. There's there's a lot of different ways that you could do it.
I'll make you full screen. You're full screen now.
Perfect. That'll be great. I might go through and make one really quick because one thing I noticed with this design here is, let me go back to here's my first test build. This guy. So he's got this little gun belt here, and you'll see if you're watching me make this stuff, I'm doing a lot of extracts that I'll eventually ZRemesh or remesh or repurpose once I get those pieces done. The belt, something like that, I would probably do this a different way instead of doing extract because this is so layered. Like it's got all these extra loops and all these extra parts. This to me is something that I would personally do with probably just polygon modeling, just use ZModeler. But before actually, maybe we could do like a combination of ZModeler, insert curve brushes. And to show you kind of what I mean, if you haven't used an insert curve brush, here's one that I made forever ago that I've kind of just kept around. You can simply just go ahead and like draw this thing and you get an insert curve. So you can go in and now you get this piece. So the insert curve is great for a lot of different things, especially like if I want to do the tubes, and I'm going to get to that here eventually, making those tubes, insert curve is the way to go for stuff like that. But for this belt here, what you could do is, you could take this dude and we could go down to, say, his belly, solo out this subtool. This stuff hasn't been remeshed together, but I could go in. Oops, let's go get rid of those lower subdivisions and start drawing this thing around. Right, so this is one way to do it. I don't know if have you heard of this, Gecko? If you're still there, I'm curious if you've actually seen insert curve brushes. Because if not, I can talk about how to build an insert curve brush that has all the right components to make this work. But one thing that you'll see with an insert curve, you can have this thing loop all the way around. You can also, if I undo, let's go to stroke. Curve functions, delete. If you start pulling this thing, you hold shift, you can complete the loop, and then you're going to go through and get this thing snapped all the way around. Okay, so you have heard of this. So this, I would say, if you at least understand the concept of how to make this, this is the way that I would go about it. But here's a little trick, something I like to add, just have a little extra control for this kind of stuff. For example, when you do this trick and you hold shift and it loops all the way around, when you're doing a belt, in this case, that belt needs to go up through the belt loop and then through and actually look like it's like tightened through, right? Like this piece here should be going, all the way up through here. Doing that in this technique with the curve may not necessarily be the best approach. So something I like to play around with in this area is convert that surface into something that we can actually use a deformer to move this thing around. So for example, I'll go to my final. Say I want to do it like on top of this guy here. I'll just do it on top of the little outfit. So I'll go, maybe turn this off, turn off these gauntlets. Yeah, okay, so we got something to work with. Now that insert curve brush, I'm going to go into, grab a plane or something that I can draw it on top of. So I actually want to get a longer version of this thing, as if I have the full belt laid flat across any surface. So plane 3D. Now if I start drawing this and, whoops, let's go. Draw this, hold shift, I can get a straight line. So I can go like across this thing and draw. Let's just go about here. Now, the smaller the draw stroke, let's say I go a little bit lower and I hold shift as I'm drawing, I'm going to get a nice, clean, long strip there. Now, I'm just using the insert curve to actually draw the repeat parts and get a longer version of this belt. So really, if you understand the concept of these brushes, these insert curve brushes, if you take a look at the, let's go grab a mesh from brush, this is what the brush part looks like. So all you have is essentially this central component here that's being duplicated along the curve. So I'm using the insert curve to get myself a nice long belt, and I could decrease that size so I can make it a little bit longer. The size can scale up relatively once I bring it into the scene. But if I click to delete the curve, split unmasked, now I've got this thing. So if I hold while rotating, I hold shift, this should be 45 degrees going at the corner. Now I'm locking it to vertical, and now I've got this thing basically vertically along that world axis, and I can click home like Paul just showed, sending it to the home axis. So I'm centering it for a specific reason. Hopefully this will make sense here in a second. So then going back to my scene, I'm going to go into this little thing and insert that new piece that I just brought in, that I just made. And now I can scale this thing up. Let's rotate it here. Now let's just say like the belt loop is, I don't know why this makes sense to me, but I need it to go this way. This is the way I put my belts on. It's weird that I have to do things exactly like I do in real life. But so now I have this thing just traveling along this axis. Now, if I go in, as long as that gizmo is traveling in the direction that I want, it's aligned to the object, I can go to customize. I'm going to assign bend curve. And then I can go set the cone control. So you have X, Y, and Z. I want this to go along the Y axis of the gizmo. And by default, you'll see it should have 2 points. So you can move only 2 points. If you grab the outer cone here, this adds more points along the curve. And now what I can do is I can start, whoops, and you'll see also I was actually using this morning. So there is a symmetry setting. So this cone right here, when you hover over it, you see the text. So setting it to 1, symmetry is on, 0, symmetry is off. So with that thing off, now I'm going to go in and start moving this around. And once you start moving, I always start with a few points. I'm going to click and drag to add a couple more. And I can start by, I'm just posing this with the bend curve deformer. And the reason why I like this as opposed to just using the insert curve, because I get more control over both. So I'm combining 2 features, really. I'm using insert curve to generate the mesh, and I'm using bend curve to actually go through and put this thing into place. So I'm just going to turn this off so I can only see this part. So as I move these points in space and I get this stuff aligned, then you'll see in the cone deformer, you get the blue one. So the blue one, when you click and drag, it smooths the transition. So it does change the positioning, but it does ease up those curve points. And just, I find this to be much easier to put here in place. And now, as we start to get into this part, you'll see I haven't been adding too many points. So I'm just using a few points to get the general position. But now if I click and drag and add a couple more, now I got a lot of points along the space. Now what I can do is I can start to put this thing through. Let's just zoom out here and do a little smoothing. Make sure I don't right curve points here. So this one. Oops, there we go. So I'm basically able to kind of go through and overlap these parts much better. And then let's go in and do just a little bit more smoothing. Soften up that transition. And actually, if I move this, you'll see as you stretch these things out, you can kind of go through and add extra spaces. The more points you have on that curve, the smoothing will have it'll still have its natural effect. However, it won't lose as much of its position because the curve points themselves are maintaining the position of where this stuff is. Then I can go through, do a little smooth, and when I'm done, I can click accept. And now I got this thing almost in place. Now I've got polygrips on this object. So we could go do a little auto group. I can mask this thing off. Gizmo, maybe just stretch this out. Realign this. And then I could go through and fix some of these little adjustments. So if I wanted to make this thing actually travel through, I'd probably just go through and grab this whole shell, mask it, push this stuff down, just start fixing that thing so it looks like it's traveling through that surface. All right, so that would be in a quick sort of demonstration. That would probably be the way that I would go about it. That way I have a nice clean piece. And then what I love about this is that I have clean topology. So if I want to go do something to this, as opposed to doing it the extract way, extract is quick and easy. This takes a little bit more time, but what you get is now if I wanted to go in and make some changes to this, I could go in and do, say, insert, some edge loops here. We could go delete polygons, and we could do a bridge, say 2 holes, and I could bridge this to start making like extra loops and modeling on top of this thing. All right, so I can do other stuff to this very quickly, and this is why ZModeler is in one of my top 5 features, because I could do stuff like this pretty easily. So that's a little long-winded, but hopefully that kind of goes through and gives you some ideas. If you haven't tried that kind of stuff before, that would be my first suggestion. Hey, congrats. We've received 100 messages on the stream today, Paul.
Whoa. I like it. I see the other question coming through also about a person about exploding mesh when projecting. Well, that's all really about your settings. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think this one setting is really moving up real fast for me in the projection. It's the new project history. I actually don't use project all anymore. I really, for the most part, a lot of times now use the project history. But your settings that you need to put here are important, right? So look at this projection as like if you were fishing and you're on Solomon's Lakes in Michigan and you're at the top of the lake, right? And then there's the big fish down lower, and then there's smaller fish at the top. So obviously, if you want to get the big fish, you got to have a bigger fishing line. Okay, so the problem though within the world of CG is if we're having something like this where we've got a point where they're missing in this surface in here, right? So this surface would be able to see this surface on the top, and vice versa. This surface on the top will start seeing this surface on the bottom. So if you cast out too far, then it sees those, and that's why you might get some spiking in there. So what I recommend is storing a morph target, and then using what I really love, why I like the project history. It's pretty awesome. Why I like it and why I found myself using it so much. And I definitely will be using it in my Gremlin project. I know that much. That's good. That's good. It's going to happen. So let me load fast. Yeah. What were you saying? Okay, so what I like about it, if we see something like this dog real quick, and then I dynamesh this, right? We've got a dynamesh now mesh. And then when I start sculpting, here, I'll switch to a different material. I start sculpting, right? You start doing this, you start dynameshing, you start doing this, dynameshing, and then you're just going everywhere on the dog, right? You're dynameshing. You might even be one of those, you like to live in the dynamesh world forever, which is not me. I don't like to live in the dynamesh world forever. So there's a point where I come out of dynamesh mode. Okay, but with that said, I have topological, I think, on still. I was playing with my brush. Auto masking. Okay, good. Right, so with that said, so we're working on this dog. Number one, the topology isn't always going to be the greatest, especially if we're going to do, if we go now with the dynamesh, right? You're getting stuff like this, right? And then as you're building it up, you're changing your surface and you're re-dynameshing. And like I said, you might divide up. And then now you're just going to get more details in your model here, right? So I'm then going to be at the point now where, hey, I want to get a new mesh that's clean and I want to use the ZRemesher. There's all this history being restored, right? So obviously one of the goals of the ZRemesher is to reduce your polygon count and keep it quadded as much as possible and follow the flow, okay? So when you remesh this, right, it's adding that into the undo history, okay? So this is why I like this feature. Now that we've added in this version, the abilities with the extractor brushes and the history brush, it added this little feature, which I think is a hidden, super powerful feature. Because now you see I've lost a lot of the sculpt in here, right? So in the projection, right, your distance is in essence your fishing line, okay? And your mean is just your averaging, and then you have blurring, okay? And there's the reproject higher subdiv, which sometimes can be very nice. I can try and show that really fast. So what I do now is divide up, right, just to get a little bit more in this, right? Then I come back here and go to the part where there's the sculpt, hold the control key. So I'm up here in my undo history right here, okay? Hold the control key and click on that. And then now I cycle through back my undos, right? And you can see now the project higher, or in essence, the project history is now available. And when I click this, ZBrush is only looking at like what the history was. So it makes your projection cleaner because it doesn't need necessarily to do as much projection through here. It's really all in here where all the projections have got to come through. So even if I keep adding another subdivision level, I can still keep reprojecting that history because that history point's still there. So I can keep going back and grabbing that details. And I've even changed topology, right? That one mark I had up here was actually the Dynamesh. And now this orange mark is now actually the Z-sphered with subdivision levels. So I really like to use that, but what I'd also recommend is at that level, make morph targets. So what I also normally do is I go up once subdivision level and then I do a projection. Then I go up another sub level and do a projection. Instead of trying to go just divide up all the way and I'll just tell ZBrush to try and match this new mesh with the old mesh, right? Your source target is the old mesh, right? So that's a lot of more movement, where if you're just doing a little increments at a time, you'll get way less of what you're talking about with little spikes. Because then the projections don't have to travel so far, so which means also you don't need to turn that distance up so far. So you'll have less of what I'm talking about here, where this surface is not going to necessarily see this surface as much, right? And then of course storing a morph target will help through here. Okay, and then the last one, I don't know if I can load it because I might have to. Let me quick save my Care Bear here.
Don't forget to save.
She cares. Okay, so the project ability that you have in here is not just those two options: the project all, project history, but there's also a project shell, and this could be really handy. So we have in here. Let me see where's those mannequins. Here they are. Okay, here's the running dog. Okay, so I've got this running dog mannequin, right? When I hit A, this is the mesh I get, right? So I really like the form of this dog. I like the silhouette I'm getting of the dog, right? Looking at my silhouette window. It's got some volume in there, okay? I'm going to duplicate this dog just so that we have two subtools, okay? And then this dog, I'm going to undo the A, okay? And let's color this one like a different color. Let's make this one red so you will visually be able to see what I'm doing, okay? And so we've got subtool number one. Let's say that's my good sculpt, the sculpt that now I want to do different. So I'm going to say this dog, because it was done with mannequins, okay, it was actually done with Z-sphere. So I'm going to turn this off and let's add some density to this and let's preview this. And what you get is like a dog like that, right? So it's nice and smooth, okay, in here. So I'll color it red again so you can see. So you got a nice smooth dog, right? And here it would be good to make it a skin actually, just so that I'll be working the same workflow that you would be working in. Okay, so now we've got a red dog. That's my clean, divided up mesh. And then the gray dog is hey, that's the sculpt I actually want to capture. So here's what your projection shell is going to be able to allow us to do. So I'm on the red dog. So I'm just going to pull on this slider until I see nothing but red. And when I see nothing but red, I let go, and you see it snaps back. And so now the only thing you're seeing back to what you were. But you'll notice once I've done that, the inner button now turns on. So what this does is actually limits the projections. So the projection now is only going to project inward. It's not going to do any projection outward. So in essence, there's only half the projection power happening. But what it's doing is it's using from the projection shell where I inflated that as its go point, not the point we're looking at right now. So of course, even if I throw this distance up and I'm going to say no color and I do a project all, right? Boom, there you go. I'm done. There, now I got a dog. That's the red one, right? That matches the gray one perfectly. So a little fun fact for you there. That's how I would go about doing some projection stuff as well. Hopefully that helps narrow down some things for you. Let me reload my Care Bear.
Pro 4210 said 4210 rather. Sorry, I make sure I get that right. He said Solomon Blair and Paul Gaboury stream sandwich. Right. No,
only ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, I was gonna say no mayo.
Oh yeah, I love a good deli sandwich. I'm a big fan of a good deli sandwich for sure.
Yeah, we haven't. What was the place we used to go to for lunch? It's all about the bread.
Oh yeah. I've never been a huge fan of that place. It's good, but I've never been like a crazy huge fan of that place. But I just think it's more expensive for the food.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
But I do love a good deli sandwich for sure. I'm a big fan of that, something like that.
Deli meats.
The last projection thing I did was called, here, I'll show you again in the UI. And I'll turn on my magnifier since you guys can see the magnifier. So it's projection shell. Can you guys see it when it's double screen, or do you need me to go to single screen? You can't unwrap UVs with 13 million polygons.
Oh yeah, that's too dense.
We have a polygon limit for UVing with UV Master. It only can do about 100,000 polygons. That's way too dense to do UVs. Well, I'm assuming then maybe you're doing scan data, because in a pipeline you wouldn't want to be UVing 15 million in any pipeline, not film or game.
Oh, wait, what was I using? I was using the old.
Oh, you're lost now?
Yeah, it's like I figured out which bolts I was using, the flatheads. Like,
what am I doing?
Where am I? What day is it?
Are we in ZBrush or are we in Microsoft Word? I'm so confused.
So I was trying to figure out ideas for this particular this shape here, since this dude's got these really crazy freaky teeth, and in line with the Care Bears, the old Care Bear stare. I want to do like I don't know. I'm just looking at the color schemes. We got to throw some rainbows in here. So these are all the Care Bears. The rainbow's a pretty consistent thing. So instead of them shooting, I'm just gonna do. I was thinking about this piece being a rainbow. See if I can actually turn the old paint on. Yeah. So there's like a rainbow cover. It's a little more cute.
Always got to go for cute.
Always got to go cute. You know what's so crazy is the Immortan Joe, these tubes that he's got, these oxygen tubes.
Yeah.
Remember when we were making, let's see, which version was it that we did all of the insert brushes for our 3 or 4?
I want to say 3.
For our 3, I believe. I remember making these IMM curve brushes, and I made this hose tube. I actually remember I was watching Mad Max or looking at Mad Max reference, and I think I made this tube from the movie or from something related to the movie because it's perfect. I mean, it's exactly like this tube that he's got jammed in here.
Oh, the irony.
I know. It was all culminating to this one moment.
It happened.
It happens. It finally happened.
We knew it.
So here, if I draw these guys out, brush, fires, make sure that weld points is on. Oh wait, that's not the right one though.
Don't get lost. Don't get lost.
Pose number 1. Oh wait, did I not turn it on for this part? Nope, I didn't. There we go. Oh yeah, that's going to be the one. However, for this, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same trick I did and curve for the belt. I like that a little bit more. I also got this really grotesque and kind of crazy oxygen bag. It almost looks like, I don't know what that thing's made out of. I don't know if I want to know.
Maybe, do they know? The filmmaker.
Yeah. This thing's got these little bubbly kind of fans coming out.
This is a great question from Yetkin. I don't use a custom menu for myself. It's just because I teach ZBrush so much too and so often, and I know if I get used to a custom menu, it's just now when I go into teaching, say ZBrush, it's going to throw me off for a while because a long time, and I'm going to be sitting there, and I don't use custom hotkeys, so it's really more for me because I'm teaching ZBrush as well a lot. I know Solomon teaches ZBrush too a lot, but for me in my head, and that's what we're going with, I just want to make sure I don't get lost in the weeds, per se.
I will tell you, I followed suit on that one for quite a while, but maybe a year ago, I just decided I wanted to start using my own custom UI more. I think it was because so many ZBrush users use custom UIs, I wanted to just get a feel for using it more often. Like I still have to use default with classes and teaching, but it does kind of mess me up sometimes using especially my hotkeys. That's the one that I get stuck on. Like now I assign Control Shift S to solo, so I can solo whenever I want. I don't like having to go over and do this all the time. And that one, I lose the ability to do visibility shrink, which I like to do grow all a lot, or grow rather, Control Shift X. But it's a little trade off, you know.
I'm a big fan of the one you just brought up. I use that like all the time.
Yeah, that's a great feature.
No jokies, using it all the time. I love that selection ability. I find myself, even when I go to other programs, I'm doing it. I'm like, oh crap, I'm not in ZBrush.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Paul, instead of wearing cheater's glasses, why don't you just requisition a 90-inch 4K screen and write it off? That's all you do the same.
Yep. Sign me up.
Yeah, we were talking about the Unreal thing a while ago. Yes, it's good. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's just really exciting from a ZBrush user